Hey, welcome back to the Golf Podcast. This is episode number 75. So, if you're listening in the car, wherever, and you want to get all of the notes and everything we talk about, you can get to the show notes by going to golficity.com/episode 75. Today, we're going to talk about an important topic that I know everyone has struggled with. We're gonna talk about ways to get rid of those first tee jitters. And if you haven't had some nerves on the first tee, you're not human. So I'm sure everybody out there listening has struggled with this one way or another. So we're going to talk about a couple ways that you can get around that. But as always, I have Mike here with me. Mike, have you been playing?
I've been playing pretty well, Frank, actually. The most exciting thing, and I waited to tell you this live on the show, is that guess what has come back in full force?
Tell me it's the driver.
The driver, I had 3 or 4, because I had measured them on the watch, plus 300-yard drives on yesterday. Yeah, wow, I'm losing track of time. And it's just a beautiful left to right fade, and it's like I never had a problem.
That's awesome. And it changes everything, right? When you're that much, you get that little extra distance off the tee.
You get that extra day. I mean, the average ones are going about 270, but every now and then I'll catch a good one. But even at that 270, I mean, I got 110, 130 left as opposed to 175, 180. Changes the game completely, because I'm hitting more greens now and I'm scoring better. It's just amazing how it all comes together if you have that nice long ball off the tee. So as you can imagine, I am scoring pretty well.
Yeah, like we talked about how much consistency you had with that hybrid off the tee, but
Mm.
big difference hitting the longer irons into greens versus hitting those short irons and wedges.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's funny because the hybrid's starting to go the other way on me. So
Oh,
yeah, it's really strange. I mean, I would bet my bottom dollar on that club, 2 months ago, in any type of bet with that, and now I don't know if I would trust it the same. So, it's funny how the game changes. But I am in like the greatest shape of my life, so I'm very flexible. Maybe that's how I got that torque back, and I'm able to get through the ball off the driver, and it's changing everything with the shorter club. I don't know, but overall, I am really loving the scores.
that's great. Sounds to me like you've got a lot of confidence in it, and you're going to need to make sure to find a way to get confidence in all the clubs. So that's a good thing. Is in a couple episodes we've got coming up an episode we're going to do on how to build more confidence in your game. So we'll talk about all that. One thing we talked about last week, Mike, that was a really one of my favorite topics by far. We talked about avoiding that simple mental mistake of the quote unquote anyway. So if you didn't get a chance to listen to that, I encourage everybody to go back, listen to episode 74. Mike, I'm playing some of my best golf right now.
Hmm.
And what I'm doing is I had a round over the weekend where that's all I focused on. I talk about how I've been focusing on the short game a lot.
Right.
But aside from that, from the mental standpoint, I was focusing really hard on the anyway and not having even one single anyway. And I'll tell you what, that is, especially maintaining that for 18 holes, that is one heck of a difficult mental exercise. So if anybody out there is listening has tried this, they'll know what I mean. But there was a lot of times, I'll be honest with you, I had to step away from the ball after like addressing it. I think my playing partners probably wanted to kill me because I was taking a little bit more time.
Yep.
But I was able to leave that round without once saying, I made a stupid mistake there. You're still
Right.
going to make mistakes. We're not pros, but I didn't make any stupid mistakes. Nothing that I really, truly regretted because of the fact that, every time I would really put that thought into it. And when I felt that quote unquote anyway coming on, I would just stop. And
Yeah.
it really helped. I mean, Mike, I was even doing stuff. I had one time I had a ball that didn't fade on me, ended up in the, I wouldn't call it the woods. It was like right before the woods where the long grass is and there's some sticks and stuff like that. And normally I would just get, upset that I was in there and just try to hack it out. And sometimes, it doesn't even get out and then you're just frustrated. But I was like, nope, I'm going to treat it like any shot. I'm going to take my time. I moved some, the loose sticks around it,
Hmm.
punched it out, and I saved bogey. Whereas
Yeah,
normally
that's
you might
great.
double bogey a hole like that or worse because of the fact that you're in the mess. But I'm focusing on that one little thing. And what I really like about that tip is that it doesn't matter your skill level. Everyone can do that. It's just discipline. Everyone can get a little bit better by trying that. So again, I encourage people, if you haven't had a chance to, go back, listen to episode 74 and try it.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought about you on the second hole yesterday because the whole day it was cart path only. And I hit a ball off the left side, and the path was on the right. I walked all the way over with a 6-iron. I said, I think 7's the play. I went all the way back to the cart, and everyone was just like, "What are you doing? Wrong club?" And I said, "Yeah, I got to hit it right." I thought about you, so I'm so psyched that we did that because it's a really neat thing to do on the course.
It really
it's
is
helpful.
I know, and just the difference in talk about building confidence in your game. The difference in the feeling when you say like, you know what, I stuck with my plan versus saying like I was essentially kicking yourself because you were lazy because you just didn't walk back to the cart, and then trying to alter your swing, like you say, like grab that 6-iron and be like try to underswing it or something like that. It's just not going to work out. Right. So it's a great tip. One of my favorite podcast episodes so far, and I encourage people to listen to it. And like I said, if you want more, that tip comes right from the book Zen Golf. We link to that. Check it out on Amazon. It's not expensive. I think it's probably the best $12 you're going to spend on your game. So pick that book up and you can definitely check that out. And actually, I have a short link for that. You can just go to golficity.com/ZenGolf. It'll take you right to it. You can order the book. So Mike, let's jump right into today's topic because we've got, like, I think 5 or 6 tips here that we can use to help people who struggle with this. And like I said, let's take a reality check here. Nerves are just an unavoidable part of golf. If you've never get nervous on the golf course, like I said, you're either not human or you really don't care about your game. And if you don't care about the game, I would guess that you're probably not listening to a golf podcast right now. So let's get that out of the way. Everyone listening to this is most likely human and also cares about their game. So that case, I'm sure you felt the nerves before, and everyone knows there's no place where the nerves are you feel them more than on that first tee. Mike, that's when you're teeing off, everybody's watching. You've got that whole anticipation built up of like, where's my round going to go? How am I going to play today? Right. Exactly. I mean, you felt it, right?
All the time. I mean, if there's ever a time I'm going to see a 6-7 on a scorecard, it's most likely on the first hole.
Yep, absolutely. Because that nerves that stand there. So there's a couple things that we can go over. And like I said, the main thing I want people to get out of this is understand you're never going to fully eliminate those nerves. They're always going to be there. We're just going to talk about how to be aware of them and how to play through it. And nerves to a certain extent can be a good thing because it creates that where you need to focus. But the first tip, and this is something that we've talked about extensively, so I'm not going to go into the whole thing. We've even done multiple, I think more than one, podcast episode on this. And we've got multiple articles on Golficity I'm going to link to. But that's making sure you do that pre-shot routine. Okay, a pre-shot routine can go a long way towards calming your nerves before any shot. Not just your first tee, the first tee shot, but that pre-shot routine, by kind of like working your way into it, it's a great way to kind of block out the other things that are going on because you're focused on going through your routine. This is where if your routine is different or you abbreviate it or you just go up to the ball, swing and hit it, you're not really giving yourself the full opportunity you need to do. Now, Mike, this is actually part of my last time playing. My anyway would be if I didn't complete my pre-shot routine. To me, that's almost an anyway. I'm proceeding anyway. I'm hitting the ball anyway when I shouldn't be. So I really was regimented about my pre-shot routine. It really helped my game. But you could build, the main point here is you can build your pre-shot routine however you want it, whatever makes you feel the most comfortable. But the idea is definitely have a routine and stick with it. If you haven't built a pre-shot routine for yourself, again, I encourage you to go back and listen to some of those old podcast episodes, or, there's articles on Golficity, which I will link to in the show notes. But a couple things that are kind of staples that a lot of people like to include is first, locking in a target for your shot. Okay. Second, taking a deep breath. I really think this is more important than it sounds, because just taking a deep breath can really help calm your nerves. I mean, that's just a proven thing. People know it. They talk about, deep breathing, but just even one or two, just take a deep one, blow it out. And then you're going to feel that kind of a little bit of that tension relax. Like I said, not all of it, but even if you can get rid of some of those nerves, that's good. Another good idea is visualizing the shot. That's going to really help. And you can even, look, if you want, you can even take a second, or two to close your eyes and just calm your mind. So either way, however you want to structure it, do that pre-shot routine. Now, Mike, me personally, my pre-shot routine for the first tee is probably my most regimented for this reason, because I know if I'm not wrapping myself up in that physical process, that's when the mind starts racing. How about you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the great thing about the pre-shot routine, I mean, at first when I tried to, when I was developing it and doing it, I had to think about it a lot. And of course, I wasn't doing it 100% of the time. Now, because I've done it so many times, it's become repetitive. I don't even think about it. It's automatic. It's two simple moves, and I go up to the ball and then I hit away. So, I totally agree with you about that. That's actually helped my golf game big time.
Hmm.
It's really kept me focused and it actually has helped slow down my swing and therefore why my drive has come back.
Yeah, there's so many great aspects to it. It's almost hard to go through them all. It's crazy, but I I went years without having a pre-shot routine or a solidified pre-shot routine, and it really I was doing myself a disservice. So since putting it in play, and as we're talking here, I'm just looking it up. It was back in episode 16 that we talked extensively about the pre-shot routine. So that goes way back. And this is a good time actually to remind everybody that I know iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, they all show, I think the most recent, maybe 50 episodes or so. But at any time, if you want to get all the back episodes, all the way to episode 1. It's all free to listen to. You can get to those by going to golficity.com and just click on podcasts at the top at the menu, and then you'll see you've got every single one linked to them. So if you want to go back and listen to episode 16, that's a great way to do it. All right, moving forward to the next tip we have. This is something that some people may feel comfortable with, some people may not, but I think it does have a lot of potential to really help your game, especially if you're one of those people who really struggles with the nerves on the first shot. But that's just something as simple as just picking an easier shot. Okay. There's a lot to be said for, even if you're facing a long par 4, par 5 on the first hole, there's a lot to be said for if you really feel those nerves are really, playing on you. There's a lot to be said for just taking a lesser club. It doesn't have to be your driver. Maybe it's a 5-iron, something like that. Just putting the ball in play. Get it in the middle of the fairway. Get it down there. Just something that you're more comfortable hitting. Because most people, in reality, the driver is probably the club they feel least comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people feel very comfortable with a 5-iron, a mid-iron, something like that. So look, you don't have to play your whole round that way. I'm not telling everyone to take that conservative of a route. But again, there's a lot to be said for if you can just put that ball in play and just work, get that one shot, like kind of shake it out, just get that out there and then just move forward with your round. If that's what you need to do, don't be afraid to do it. Like I said, you might not be the biggest thing for your pride, so to speak, but there's a lot to be said for playing this game smart. Okay. So if you're really feeling it, you're really feeling those nerves are kind of playing on you up there. In my personal opinion, I would much rather be in the middle of the fairway and be maybe 100 yards shorter than I would with my driver than have no confidence in it and drive the ball, hook it or slice it into the woods. that
Sure.
is where we start to see that snowball effect. You're thinking, oh, where's my round going to go? Because you drive the first one out of bounds, or you drive it now on your very second shot, you're already digging around the woods looking for your ball. That can do a lot to your mental game versus the other side of just saying, playing a conservative, smart shot, putting it down the middle. And then one thing we're going to talk about in a minute about playing more golf, maybe as you go and you become more comfortable and more used to, hitting that first tee shot, you can move away from something like this. But it's a good idea to have in the back of your mind, even if, like, let's say it's one of those instances, maybe you're on vacation or something and you're playing a more challenging course or a very popular course, and maybe there's even more people standing around the tee box than normal. In those cases, don't be afraid to do it. Pull out something else, hit it. Trust me, you don't have to worry about what everybody else is thinking, but people might be thinking, wow, that guy hit a nice iron down the middle. He must have a plan for this hole or something like that. So there's a lot to be said for it. But like Mike, I mean, it is tough because it's a little bit of your pride putting away that driver. But you see what I'm saying there?
Yeah, Frank, great minds think alike because I always take notes during our shows and I try to put some bullet points down I could talk about with you. First thing, what about just hitting a 6-iron or your best iron off the tee and just dealing with the rest? So, I think it's a great idea. In fact, I have a guy in my office and I play with him quite often. Every first tee, he just hits a 7-iron, no matter how long it could be a par 5. Yeah. And I asked him, he goes, you know what? I just got to get the first one out there. Mm-hmm. Exactly what you just said. So, not a bad idea. Maybe I'll try it.
Look, like I said, play it smart. There's a lot to be said for playing it smart. And the other place I like to, it's kind of a slight deviation, but the other place I like to do this is if everyone kind of gets those, talk about nerves, not just the first tee, but everyone gets those 1 or 2 holes that are in their head that they just never seem to play well. You know, you always seem to struggle with this one hole, and it really gets in your psyche, and you get a slump on that particular hole. That's where I think sometimes it's a good idea just to mix it up off the tee. My father, I've been playing with him a lot. He's been struggling with this. The first hole, it's not a very challenging hole. It's got a very difficult green, though.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like a turtleback green.
Yeah, but for his game, there's nothing in that hole that's particularly difficult. It's just in his head that he always plays that hole poorly, and he actually always has a good drive. You know, he's usually just a short wedge or a gap wedge out on this par 4, and he either has trouble where he misses the green or something like that. So I told him, you know, if it's just in your head, and he knows it, he said, it's in my head every time he goes out there. I said, a good idea might just be give this hole a different look. You know, instead of always hitting your gap wedge or your pitching wedge into this green, maybe hit the 5-iron off the tee and force yourself to hit maybe a 7-iron into the green. You know, obviously it's got a little bit counterintuitive. No one wants to hit a less lofted club into a green, but if it's that in your head and you need to just do that one time just to kind of shake it off, do it. You know, it's all about just kind of mixing it up and scoring. That's what it really comes down to. All right. So Mike, jumping into our next tip, let's talk a little bit about warming up properly. Now, this is something that I know is difficult for a lot of people, especially if you're playing like I do. I try to squeeze in around between work or whatever it may be. And a lot of times you're just racing out there to get to that tee box and tee off. And you don't have a lot of time to hit the range. But if you do have that time, and you can put in range work, even if it's just 10 minutes on the range with a small bucket of balls before you go out there, not only will that help you physically get the jitters out and that you're swinging the club and actually making contact, the other thing that if you get that opportunity to do it, there's a simple drill you can do, and that's using every bit of visualization you can, and just each shot that you take before you tee off, visualize, just really try to picture that first hole. You know what I mean? And then just try to play that shot. So by the time you get up to it, it's just replicating what you've been doing on the range. Does that make sense?
Dude, you're in my head. I'm going to show you this piece of paper because the next point was Michael Greller talking to Jordan Spieth and telling him to visualize it. I mean, that's such a great, powerful thing. I tried it yesterday. My buddy from high school, I played golf with him yesterday, and he was acting as my caddy. He was helping me out. We have the same golf games. We hit our clubs the same distance. Very helpful. I'd ask him to get behind me. He's a great player. I say, what would you do here? And he would tell me. I would hit a soft 7-iron and visualize it. And we were joking about it because, you know, we heard it all weekend. But it was working, Frank. Yeah. I was visualizing, where am I going to put this shot? And so awesome. You know, it's such a powerful, powerful phrase. I say it before every shot now. Yeah.
It's so important. I've been doing that, Mike, extensively the last couple of rounds on my putting, and I've seen my putting get so much better. A lot of our listeners who remember a couple episodes back, I talked about this one very interesting statistic. And it really proves the importance of visualizing. They had, and I'm going to try to remember the exact numbers, but it was a college team that they were kind of experimenting with. And what they did is they split the team into 2 groups. And for a week, they had one set of the team visualize every putt going in before they putt it. And the other side, they had them, and I wouldn't want to have been drawn the short straw and have to be these guys, but they had to visualize missing the putt every time. And what was so interesting was the guys who visualized that putt going in and really visualized the path of it, I think I think the number was 30% better. They improved on their putting. Now, what's really interesting is on the other side, those guys who visualized missing got, I think it was somewhere between 10 and 20% worse. So it really shows the power of visualization in one way or the other. And when I've been trying to do it, Mike, when we talk about, if anybody's new to visualizing it, this is beyond just picking a target. When you visualize a shot, the idea would be, as much as you can, try to visualize that whole path of the ball flight, or with a putt, try to visualize the whole roll, where it's going to follow. Mike, one tool that I've been doing, it's kind of just like, for people who have trouble understanding what visualization really is like, watching the Open, they had that shot tracker, right?
Yep.
It's probably the only thing that Fox really did well with that coverage, which I hate to say, but I don't know. It was a little bit rough, some of those camera angles. But anyway, the way you see that, if you could kind of do that with your mind, just kind of visualize what that shot shape is going to look like, it's going to really help. But here, what we're talking about, visualize that first hole, where everything kind of is, what that fairway looks like, where the bunkers are, where those things are, what type of shot you're going to do, and then do that a couple times in the range. By the time you step up to that first tee, you're going to be really feeling comfortable, and you're going to feel a lot less nervous about taking that shot. So that's another one. Another simple but can be very effective technique is just to lighten the mood. A lot of times we stand around waiting to tee off, and what happens there is, what happens. The nerves are kind of building as you're doing that. But just try to take the focus off the shot a little bit. After you've come up with your game plan, you know what you're going to do. A good way to do it is just to kind of, relax a little bit, have a conversation with your playing partners. Mike, a lot of stuff that you and I joke about before we tee off that we obviously can't talk about here on the show. We'd have to change the rating.
Right.
But, anything like that would be just like ways that you can kind of just, lighten the mood a little bit, and you'll feel a little bit better approaching the tee, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Solid points. Absolutely.
So simple but effective. This other one I think is one of the highlights here. This next point, and it's very important. It's just to keep it in perspective. Okay. I think one of the best ways to calm your jitters is just to realize that one shot is not going to make or break your entire round. Even if you hit a terrible shot off the first tee, you're still going to have plenty of time to get your game going in the right direction. Okay. So let's say you dribble it off the tee, whatever, and now you got to kind of make your way to make a bogey or whatever it may be. The important part is don't let that snowball effect take over where you're thinking, my whole round is going to be like this or whatever it may be. Chances are you got 3.5, 4 hours of golf ahead of you. That one shot is going to be long forgotten in a couple of holes anyway. So if you do have that bad shot, shake it off, go back to your game plan, go back to your pre-shot routine, just clear your mind of it, and then just focus on your next shot. That's a really good advice in general, is just to focus on each shot one at a time. But look, of course you don't want to expect to hit a bad shot, but you can really free your mind up and really kind of shake some of those nerves off by just taking that simple idea of acknowledging the fact that one single poor swing is not going to ruin your entire day. So just keep that in perspective, and you're going to really feel good about it. And the last thing, Mike, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, I wanted to ask you, when do you see your nerves fading, and do they come back for you?
You know what? I usually will see them fading pretty quick from the first tee nerves. Usually by the second shot, I'm just kind of locked back into my usual mode. Where I see them come back, without a doubt, is if I'm starting to play really well and I'm starting to worry about, the round going south. But we've talked about that extensively a lot too, is not coming from that detriment standpoint of always just kind of, thinking of it one shot at a time. But Mike, to be honest with you, I've had a lot of success with that pre-shot routine and just the anyways, and just going through and playing each shot and thinking them through and trying not to think about the last shot or the next shot. I find that if you can do as much as you can to focus on that. I've also been, one big thing I've been doing lately, Mike, I use that Nike app to track my rounds. And what I like about that is it shows one hole at a time, and it won't show the whole scorecard unless you kind of turn the phone, and then you'll be able to see it. I've been lately not looking at my score at all. So I don't even know really I have an idea of how I'm doing, obviously, if I'm a couple over par or whatever it may be, but right. I don't know, probably 6-7 times I've been out. I don't even know my score until the very end when I hit, sync round, and it calculates it and it shows me my score. I've been really trying to stay away from that. And that, that's something that I know I'll work into a point where I can kind of be more aware of my score as I go. But for right now, it's that vehicle that's really kind of helping me focus on one shot at a time by not even thinking about where I've been. Of course, you're never going to eliminate knowing you just triple bogeyed a hole. But by doing something as simple as that, it just helps me focus one shot at a time, and I'm able to do it.
Yeah.
All right. So the very last thing that we're going to cover here is just the idea of just as much as you can. And again, we know that people are busy, people have other things going on, but wherever you can, just try to play more golf. And that's really going to help you get rid of those first tee jitters. As you gather that experience, you're going to become more and more comfortable, rising to that challenge of hitting a great shot off the first tee, even if you've got those total strangers around or whatever's creating that tension and that nervousness for you. Just try to remember, and this is a good thing about playing more golf, and we talked about remembering the good versus the bad. If the more you play, the more great shots you're going to have, especially off the first tee. As time goes, you're going to have more that you can hearken back to, so to speak. But as you gain that experience, use that as leverage by just saying, I'm just going to remember those good shots I had off the first tee before I go up there. That could become part of your kind of focus in routine for the first hole. Just before you go up there, try to think of 3-4 different really great first tee shots you've had. And then that's going to kind of change your focus, change your whole perspective. So that's, again, a lot of stuff we're talking about is mental, but don't forget, that's what nerves are. So there's a reason why we're getting into that. So, something to consider, something very important is don't expect to simply put a few of these tips into use and then instantly eliminate those first tee jitters. In reality, you'll probably always feel a little bit of nervous energy before you hit that first shot. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Just remember, remain focused on your pre-shot routine, overcome those nerves. You'll be able to make a solid swing. And there's no reason why you can't hit a great ball, even with your first tee jitters doing their best to knock you off track. So just, you can be aware of the jitters, you can feel the nerves, but you can kind of play through it by just using these tips here. So, Mike, that's everything I have on that topic. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, a lot of good stuff. I'm looking forward to implementing this because I want to start parring those first holes, or maybe even making birdie to kick off the round or something. That'd be great.
Absolutely. And one thing you can kind of think of, and when you consider yourself more a true student of the game, you get to a point where these things that you used to dread, like first tee jitters, you start to embrace because you think of them, hey, this is a learning experience. Or you think back and you say, this is that opportunity I wanted where I can try to apply those tips. I do that a lot. I'll say like, okay, I'm nervous on the first tee, but I'm not going to, it's not going to be something that I'm going to dread because I'm going to think, okay, what did we talk about in the last episode? Let me try that. Let me try putting that into effect and see how that happens. And that's the real fun in this game, if you ask me, is the learning as you go and always working to get better. So a lot of that is trial and error. So anytime you go out there and you experience this, consider that another opportunity to put this stuff into play. And you're gonna really, that's where you really switch over to being a student of the game. That's as far as I'm concerned. That's my real take on the whole idea.
Excellent.
So, all right. So that's everything we have this week. Mike, next week we're going to be off. There's going to be no show next week. I can hear the groans coming because it's funny. The emails and stuff we get where people are asking us to do more episodes, and trust me, we wish we could. We're going to try to bring you more and more. But between this and everything else we've got going on with Golficity, we're got quite a bit on our plate, and I'm going to be actually traveling a little bit next week, so we're not going to be able to record a show, but then we've got a lot coming for you. Like I said, we've got this great episode coming on building confidence. We've got some really great guests that we're going to be working into the show. We're going to be talking a little bit about avoiding injuries. We're going to talk about those things. In the meantime, as always, make sure you check out golficity.com. We've got pretty much everything on there that you could use to enjoy your game a little bit more, whether it be the instructional content, to the news articles. We've got some fun stuff on there, lists and things like that. And we've also got the fantasy golf going, which, Mike, we're really tooting our own horn, but our fantasy predictions, we got it right with Spieth. Winning the
again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 2 for 2 we are in picking major winners.
Yeah, the whole world was running with Rory and a lot were running with Dustin, who came close, as we all know, but we stuck to our guns. We went with our predictor and it said Spieth, so we took it.
Yeah, that Dustin thing was a heartbreaker. I can't imagine. For all the people who were going to get the free driver if he won that, for him to win his first major, for all those things, for whoever, I'm sure people had him on their roster, even though we advised them not to. Had him on their roster for that DraftKings $1 million. I can't imagine, losing out on $1 million because of that. But, there's always things we can learn from it. I think one big thing we saw there was that Johnson, he lost his confidence in those short putts early in the round. And if you want it, perfect evidence of how important confidence is, having confidence in your whatever club you're hitting, in your game and whatever, there's your evidence right there. He lost that confidence. He 3-putted that. He never should have. But it's a part of the game. It's a reality, so.
Yeah. How long was the putt coming back? 4 feet? 3 feet?
I think it was less. I think, so he had his first putt. He went about 3 feet past the hole.
Right.
And then he had a 3-footer that he missed.
All right, so he got a 3-footer for 1.8 million U.S. Open titles in front of 86,000 people. I think that's how many were in that little capsule around the 18th, right?
Yeah.
I cannot imagine being in that situation.
Right. And we're worried about nerves because there's like 6 guys on the tee box.
6 guys, exactly.
waiting for their tee time. This guy's got all that on the line. So there's a lot to be said for it, and there's some sympathy to be had there, that's for sure.
Right. Maybe I'll just think about Dustin on my first tee next time, and that might do it.
Just think, can't be as nervous as he was.
Exactly.
All right, so that's everything we had. Like I said, we'll get to the everything I talked about, all the show notes that we have here, links to the book, links to the Preshot Routine article, all the tips that we have here. You can get to that by going to golficity.com/episode 75. That'll take you right to the show notes. Again, keep those comments coming, keep those tweets coming, keep those emails coming. You can get to best way to get to us on email is just email us at podcast@golficity.com. That comes right to it's a joint account that we have that it shoots Mike an email and it shoots me an email, so we both get to see it. So there's a lot of ways you can get in contact with us in that regard. We love hearing from you guys. We like hearing your feedback on the show and what you're having success with, what you're struggling with. I mean, that's how we really structure our upcoming episodes. We want to hear those types of things because we love to talk about it, and we're using these tips to improve our own game. So keep those coming. Like I said, that's all we have for you this week. We'll be back again soon. We'll have more for you, and we look forward to talking to you then.